Twilight falls in lockdown West London. As the metropolis's workers down tools after another long day living through the coronavirus pandemic, another kind of city dweller is out on the streets. London's urban foxes have become a highlight for many confined indoors for the past 3 months. More time at home, and lockdown coinciding with cub season, has raised people's awareness of our bushy-tailed neighbours. Online neighbourhood groups have shown a flurry of interest in foxes and their activities, as well as a stream of positive discussions and advice on how to deal with these crepuscular creatures. Trevor Williams, founder of the charity The Fox Project, is aware of this trend.
The simple fact that foxes have been more visible simply because there's been less traffic, less footfall as well. Come to that, people have been at home. The foxes have always basically taken advantage of space. They'll move out into that space and they'll use that space. And as a result of that, of course, people have been seeing them more. And there's been some people that have thought there are more. Well, there aren't more. There's just more visible simply because of our absence. While there will have been some people who've taken a dim view, having discovered something they didn't know existed, there's been a lot more people that have been contacting us that are fascinated by it and have actually been asking questions about how they can positively affect the population by providing food, by leaving habitat alone, that kind of stuff, you know. So there's been a lot more awareness because of it.
This increased awareness will have wider benefits, says sustainable design expert Sian Moxon, who is leading London Metropolitan University's response to the climate emergency.
I think a lot of people have really noticed nature more, with the sort of traffic being quieter and human disturbance being less, and with lockdown kind of coinciding with spring when nature's at its most obvious, with birds singing at the most they do, and trees coming into blossom and insects emerging for the spring. So I think that's been a really sort of happy coincidence, and I think it also hopefully gives a sense of perspective and of our place and responsibility to the natural world, because wildlife has carried on regardless, doing its thing through spring and summer, and has sort of exploited that quietness of us not interfering. So I really hope we can kind of take stock and use it as a moment to address the climate and ecological crisis, rather than kind of complacently rush back to modern life as we knew it.
Moxon is founder of Rewild My Street, a design-led project helping people to adapt their homes and streets to encourage and integrate wildlife in an urban setting.
The idea is to use design to sort of solve maybe some issues around rewilding, but also to promote the idea of how your street could be transformed into a kind of aspirational, greener, wilder place through these kind of ideas. It's quite sort of appropriate as well, because I think drawings have real potential to engage people in a different way to other media perhaps, and also to show how something could be realised at a sort of whole street scale that you might not be able to show in a photo or something. So I think they can kind of convey sort of things that you imagine better.
Moxon used the visual approach to push this engagement further by using her Instagram page. She got involved in the Wildlife Trust's 30 Days Wild initiative, an annual event where people are tasked to do something wild every day for the 30 days of June. She posted one image a day throughout June to raise awareness of the issue.
It's always something that I've signed up to personally every year, but I really wanted to support it this year in particular, because I think it's great that it's gone ahead despite the pandemic. And I think this time when everyone's kind of pausing or doing things differently is a really good time to connect with nature. So I thought the way that I could support it and help was to issue a new or different wildlife or rewilding image every day to kind of help inspire people, and also share some of the drawings that I've been doing as part of the project.
Foxes play a significant and well-loved part in our urban wildlife. In 2016, a poll by the Royal Society of Biology found that the fox came second behind the hedgehog as the nation's favourite mammal.
Specifically, I'm a big advocate of them, and I think that we should be quite honoured that a species that's so sort of beautiful and intelligent and charismatic and big, really, compared to everything else we have, can manage to live alongside us with us, barely seeing them a lot of the time. I think we should appreciate it, and I think we should also get a bit of tolerance and perspective. We don't have bears and cougars and things to worry about in this country, so I think we have to take a bit of a sense of sort of perspective and being able to live alongside other creatures.
While both advocate respect for nature, Moxon's modern design-led rewilding differs slightly from Williams's belief that wildlife favours the untidy.
Alleviates people's concerns about rewilding being messy, maybe, by kind of contrasting it with things that are tidier and thinking about design solutions to those kind of issues around rewilding.
More likely, you've got a garden that's a little bit unkempt or mature, if you like, where there are wild areas, where there are this is going to provide some security, some hidey holes. They're going to be attractive. So it's, if you really want foxes in the garden, then try not to make it too kind of cropped and you can see everything. Just leave some areas alone. That will attract them. It won't. You can't guarantee it, but I mean, it probably will.
And Williams claims that it's not all that simple to encourage foxes back into your garden.
People do try and encourage it sometimes. I mean, that's even harder to do than deterring them, actually, because you can't provide something they really want. They'll decide what they want.
When dealing with wildlife around your home, a thorough understanding and constant attention is required, but sometimes very simple changes are all that are needed to deter foxes.
It's about looking at whatever you think is necessary. I mean, it can be so simple. I've had a situation where all I did in one guy's garden years ago, he had garden gnomes everywhere. Terrible collection of garden gnomes. You wouldn't believe how many garden gnomes. You wouldn't believe how many things garden gnomes could do, how many poses they could be in, and they were everywhere. And I simply moved his garden gnomes around in different places because he'd always had them in the same place, like a sort of montage, an activity thing of, this is a gnome village. And I moved them around all over the place, and the foxes wouldn't come in his garden anymore, not for a while anyway, because it was different. You just change the environment, and any change at all can annoy them to a point where they just go, oh, I'm not happy with this. This is not comfortable. So the weirdest little changes can make a difference. So, sometimes I would just say to somebody, just move your gnome. That'll do it.
While the lockdown has proved a trial for so many, our reconnection to nature can provide welcome relief and hope for future wildlife in our streets.
What's happened during this lockdown is that people have warmed to the idea of seeing, particularly as it's coincided with the cub season, they've warmed to the idea because there's these cute cubs, bouncing around. And while they see these on spring walks, often they've never seen it themselves.
I think some things that have happened during lockdown, people will want to try to hold on to, like working from home more, spending more time with their family, spending more time in gardens if they have one, or local green spaces. And I hope people will make some lasting changes, so maybe in how they improve their gardens or spaces in their community for wildlife, and that they've also noticed that contact with nature and being at home more in their gardens and outdoors with the nice weather we've generally been having has had a positive effect on their mental health, even in a time of anxiety and stress and unknowns. So I really hope that people will take some of that into the new normal, whatever that ends up being. And maybe because it is changing quite gradually, it won't be an immediate rush back to modern life, and it will enable some of those more important things to be kept to some degree.
As the nation steps out of the house and gets back to normal, hope is high that the bond forged between us and fantastic Mr. Fox and his friends will only get stronger. Alex Ross for South West Londoner.